Welcome, everyone, to Sudbury Talks with Gwen Price, where everybody has a story. And today I'm so happy to have as my guest Bev Brisco, a woman who I admire greatly and who is such a wonderful example of a community member who's helping, who's still helping, right? Hi, Bev, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
Great. It's a nice sunny day out there, and that always makes me feel better, no matter what's going on. So, Bev, are you originally from Sudbury, or are you sort of transplanted here from somewhere else?
Let me tell you the story about that one. So,
Okay.
I was born and raised in Montreal.
Okay.
And at the time that I had finished high school, was in university, the FLQ crisis became quite serious.
Right.
And
I remember that.
those of us that were English were having a hard time getting a job. It was at the time that Laporte was murdered, that
Mm,
kind of thing.
yeah.
So the man that I was getting married to couldn't get work in Montreal, and so got a job at Inco.
Okay.
And he came here, and about 2 months later, I came on the bus and I died. I just died as I was coming into Sudbury. It was way before the regreening.
Well, you know what?
Oh
My
my heavens. I'm
my
thinking about
parents.
it now and I'm getting the shivers.
It's funny you say that because my parents came in the 50s, of course, from BC. My dad met my mom in Vancouver, came here for Inco to work. And I often think my mother must have wondered where the heck she was coming because it was such a different place back years ago, right? I mean, we're much greener now, but I can imagine her arriving here. So even though
I,
you're,
I for
years
me it
later,
was the city girl.
yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and very much the city girl.
Yeah, yeah.
And and I suddenly came to this place that was all rocks. And to top it off, he had a hotel room at the Frontenac Hotel.
Okay. I think my parents stayed at the King Edward, was it? They
That's
had two
yeah.
kids, and I guess mom was pregnant with me, and I think, oh my God, I have nothing to complain about because I think about what they went through. So yeah, I
I
can
and
somewhat.
I remember getting there and calling my father and saying, I can't do this. I need to come home. And him saying to me, Bunny, you
Yeah,
made your decision, you live by it,
yeah.
like there you go, it's done.
Wow.
But that was my introduction to
To Sudbury.
Sudbury.
Yeah. Well, and it's not a bad place to be living in these times, that's for sure. But it was a different place back in the 50s, 60s,
Yeah,
70s, for sure. It was. And we've come a long way, that's for sure. So when
this
you're
was
at, yeah,
this
sorry.
this was just going into the 70s. So
Yeah.
I mean, there was no regreening. There was
Yeah,
nothing.
it was a ways off, and we were still very much hard rock mining town. We still are, but in those days we were very dependent on the mining sector. So when you got into town, did you start working right away, or what did you do?
No, I stayed at the front end for like about 2 months. I won't go
Wow,
into some of those
that's a
experiences.
whole other story.
That's a whole different ball of wax. That one is. Anyway, um, I was pregnant
Okay,
for my first child, and
okay.
we found a place on Edward Street, and
Oh yeah,
uh, from there on in, it was mostly just being at at the house, being a mother, being a
yeah,
wife.
yeah.
You. I was not involved in the community at all. One thing that I thought was fabulous was having um, a lake,
Yes,
right
you
in
wouldn't
the
have
middle.
been, so Edward Street, that's like right downtown the hospital area?
Edmund Street. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
Edmund,
Edmund
Edmund,
Street.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So that's
So,
very close to the lake.
oh
Yeah,
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 like I would walk there.
yeah,
I learned the city by walking. Um, eh, but was I involved in the community? Definitely not.
yeah,
Definitely not. It was quite a few years later. Like then I went to work. First, I went to school to finish off some accounting stuff, and
mhm,
then it wasn't like I started working. I was a bit involved in things, but not like my father raised me to be.
but oftentimes it happens later on in life too, don't you find? I
Of
mean, you're
yeah,
busy, when you're busy with your kids and all of that, or you got a job, and maybe you're still going to school. It's a lot to deal with to add on top of that doing stuff in the community for sure. But
I
yeah,
just I wasn't interested,
yeah,
and I kind of had my little group, and
yeah,
that's as far as it went. I I was involved in little things here and there, but nothing like
yeah,
no. I had no interest in it at the time, and I had no clue um, of how good it was for the soul.
yeah.
If I look back now,
Yeah,
I wish that when I was in my 30s, that I was doing the volunteer work
yeah.
just to grow my soul.
And it's funny you say that because my mother never understood my volunteerism. Uh, she always felt like you do something and you get something back, and you do absolutely with volunteers, but there's no monetary
Oh,
reward. It's very much in your soul. You're absolutely right, and I get a lot from that, and the networking and the people that you meet along the way. Like-minded people, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, and I could tell that my father, in a way, was disappointed. I'm an only child,
Oh,
only grandchild,
oh
only
wow.
niece.
Oh,
Okay, so the pressure on me growing up was really tough.
no doubt.
Um, there was a lot of expectations. But the one thing that I always had was my father always took me to everything that he did. And he was very involved with the Legion,
Oh
very
yeah. Yeah.
involved with the foresters, very involved in different car organizations because we would do um, gym, gymkana, they would call
Oh,
it,
okay.
which you would get a bunch of directions, go through the roads, and have to come to the
Oh,
right spot. And I was always the navigator.
oh
I got very
wow.
good with maps at 13 years old.
Well, geez, we've got a
It was,
lot in common because I often was the one holding the map too, although you'd never know it now. Without my GPS, I'm directionally challenged. What,
but I mean, so my father had said to me,
yeah,
um, how come you're not involved in things? Like he'd say to me, Bunny, you need to get involved in things. That was his nickname for me.
but
And I just,
yeah.
nah, um, I was pretty wrapped up in me.
Well, that's not a
Um,
bad thing either. We do have to do a little bit of that.
anyway, I started at Sears, and within a year and a half, I was with the management team.
Which department did you work in?
Let me see. I had men's, I had women's, I had children's.
Okay, you went the whole store.
You know what? Boy, first of all, it was a great learning experience. But more than that, I grew.
Yeah.
I really grew because when you are not putting yourself out there, you get pretty cocky about yourself. And boy, did I have a wake up call.
So how many years were you at Sears? A long time?
I was at Sears for 19 and a half years.
Hmm.
And then I went back for another 2 years as a greeter up at the home store and had the time of my life. Oh my God, I had a ball.
Oh, geez, I forgot about that. Yeah, the
Yeah.
store.
I
Yeah,
went back up there and that was so much fun. So much fun.
right up your alley.
Yeah. Well, I'm a people person,
You absolutely, yeah.
So, but anyway, while I was at Sears, I happened to have been I can't remember what the first project was, but it was something to do with um, raising awareness of money.
Mm.
And I was hooked.
You found your passion.
I found it. And then gradually, I became the spokesperson for the Sears Drama Festival. So I dealt with all the high schools and just had an absolute ball.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
And then I met someone at Sears who was very involved with a new little organization called Summerfest.
Right. Yeah.
And because you see, in the meantime, I had owned a business, done a craft show, done a couple of them, knew about putting vendors together, that kind of thing.
Oh.
So I had said, well, let me help. Maybe I can get a few bits.
Yeah, let me think now. I didn't know anyway, you'd had a business before.
I got into the meeting and I never left the organization for 15 years, and we're still all the best of friends.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know how big Summerfest became. It became huge. I was responsible for all the crafters at that event, all the food vendors. And then I took over the job of handling all the riders back of main stage for our main stage.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was a really busy time. I used to have to recuperate for 2 days afterwards, and the older I got, the longer the recuperation took.
Yeah, well,
I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked.
Well, that's a talent. That's a talent unto itself. I mean, being able to talk to the right people, accessing, whoever you needed, right, and doing all that. That's a career in itself.
And you want to know something, Gwen? It was a learning experience because I had to deal with the city. I had to make sure paperwork was done right. I had to make sure the vendors. It was every time I've done a volunteer thing, I learned something.
Yeah.
Every time I learned something new.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the organization that you get involved in, you learn something. Exactly, depending on what the organization is, you learn, maybe you end up becoming a manager a lot of times, and if you're on a board or something, you end up learning a whole bunch of skills for sure.
But every single one of my volunteer endeavors have ended up helping me learn. And as long as you're open to learning, You
Yeah.
never, your brain is functioning 24 hours a day.
Well, and that's why it's such a wonderful thing for seniors to do. Even if somebody does retire, it's a great opportunity to get involved with an organization and maybe learn something new. And you're right, your brain, it's so important to keep active in your senior
That's right.
years, if you're retired or not. And yeah, that's what I've always felt too, that I'm drawn to volunteering for a lot of different reasons, and that's part of it. Is you learn something, you meet some great people, you help an organization, and so you get that feel good coming back to you.
That's right. And you meet a lot of people,
Yeah.
an awful lot of people. Um, and what happened was, starting with Summerfest got me really involved in the cause marketing at Sears. And it got
Okay.
to the point that any cause marketing endeavor, usually I was running with it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we get this email saying that we're starting a program called Round It Up
Round it up. Okay.
at Sears. And so my store manager says to me, find an organization, Bev, that would want to be involved with us. And what a Round It Up is you go through the cash and you round up your sale to the
Right.
nearest dollar. So
Right.
if it came to 13.75, you'd round it up to 14, and that 25 cents goes through. Well, imagine how many customers go through Sears a day.
Yep.
Doesn't
Yep.
take long to add up.
Yep.
I happen to come upon Better Beginnings, Better Futures,
Right.
because this has to be children oriented. I came upon them. Um, I'm going to drop a name here, but she well deserves it. I met Carol DeForge, and I never in my life met such an amazing, strong, caring woman.
Wow.
And that started it. We started the Rounded Up program, all the money going to Better Beginnings, Better Futures. Um, and over a period of time, they made over $60,000 from
Wow.
Sears.
That's a pretty good chunk just from one organization.
And they they made such good use of it, the programs that they still have there.
Yeah, absolutely. They're still going. Yeah, that's for
Very,
sure.
very good. But that was when the program was only just getting started.
Wow.
So it worked really, really good. And it was a program that went right across Canada. But we were one of the pilot stores to do it.
Wow, I
And
didn't know
I
that.
had such a blast organizing that.
Yeah.
And then I was hooked. I was hooked.
And that wasn't the last of the organizations that you you became involved in. And I probably don't even know all of them. I know a few. And it's just been amazing, your contribution to the community through your work.
You know what people don't realize is I get back so much more than I give. And I'm not just saying that, Gwen. That's
No, I
not
know.
being that is being dead honest.
Yeah, I know
I
that
get
is.
back so much more.
Yeah.
When I had a staff member that had breast cancer and sat across from the table from me and said she wanted to make a difference, that was my start with Angels in Pink.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And from there, it went to going on the board of the Northern Cancer Foundation. I mean, everything happens for a reason.
Yes, I believe that. Yeah. And I mean, and you know personally the impact that cancer can have in people's lives. And I don't know if you want to talk a bit about that.
Sure,
but,
I have no problem.
Yeah.
First of all, there was my husband got cancer. And it was just a little while later that my staff member got the cancer. So I understood the cancer center because as a caregiver, I was with him constantly. His journey with cancer lasted nearly 6 years.
Wow.
And it's been 10 years and it still hurts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you think you're prepared and you're not. But I really got to know the cancer center. I got to know the volunteers. I saw cancer from another side, not just from the side of um, raising money
Mhm.
for it. And then July 18th, 2020, I got cancer.
Yeah.
And it is terminal. I have bone cancer, which I'm very lucky and happy to say it's in remission right now.
Wow.
And I also have lung cancer, metastasized cancer.
And it's amazing to me, Bev, that you are still out there fighting tooth and nail for volunteer. You're still volunteering. You're still raising money, and you're dealing with that in your own personal life. It's a testament to the strength you have. And I know you don't. There's days you don't have good days. There's
I
bad
have
days.
rough days.
Yeah,
I have down
absolutely.
days. I have rough days, but you want to know something? Um, you have a purpose. And I'm not staring at four walls all the time.
Yeah.
What I also did was um, going back just a little bit when Sears went bankrupt.
Yeah.
I was like, I really, it, let's just say Sears isn't one of my favorite words to say.
Well,
And
and it was
that's
a
what
horrible experience for all of those employees, wasn't it? And it still
terrible.
has the ripple effect year. Because what year was that happened?
Um, let me see. I'm going back here. It was 2000. I'm going to say 2015, 16.
It's
Sorry,
been a yeah,
brain's not.
yeah, no, and
I've got a little bit of chemo brain. What can I say?
well, you're allowed. Hey, I don't even have that excuse, Pam. So, but it's
But
been a while, and it's had a
yeah,
horrible effect for a lot of people, hasn't it?
and I was at the point of losing my house,
That's awful. I mean,
and
all
I
of your
just
pensions were lost. Is that what
that's
happened?
right.
Did you was it all gone, or were you able to get anything out
I,
of it?
just a small amount.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't help that at 19 and a half years, suddenly my job became redundant and I was let go.
Yeah.
So wasn't getting a full pension anyway.
No.
Like it was just one ball of wax over the other.
Yeah.
Ended up, I was close to losing my house, and a friend mentioned to me about a job, and I could work at home using my phone and my computer. And I grabbed at it.
Can I
And
ask you
I
how old were you? Like, I'm still working as a senior. Were you a senior by then? Like, is that
it was 2018, May 1st, 2018. So I'm 73 years old now. Do the math.
okay? Okay, you qualify as a senior. And
So
yeah, and we were talking about that. How some seniors. I mean, it's okay, and whether to have the choice to work, but some people have been forced that they
I
have
had
to
no
continue.
choice.
You have to continue to work, and those retirement. It wasn't Freedom 55. Like, forget it, right? But
Yeah,
for
yeah.
some people, financially, it's a necessity.
But you want to know? Um, like everybody talks about retirement. I mean, I did. We all do.
Yeah.
But you want the honest to God's truth? I'm still working with cancer and
I
everything. I'm still working. And do you know It gets me up in the morning.
Absolutely.
It gets me moving in the day.
Yeah.
For a couple of hours a day, I don't think about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Most seniors talk about retirement. That's fine as long as you have something in mind that's
Yeah.
going to keep you mentally and physically active.
Yeah.
If you're
Absolutely.
just retiring for the sake of retiring, what a waste of good energy.
Well, and it's very what's the word? Ageism. It's very okay. All of a sudden, you're supposed to do this at 60 or 65 or whatever, and like I still in my brain I'm 19. My body tells me otherwise, but I still feel capable and wanting to get out there and still work and contribute and yeah, does the money help? Absolutely, right? It helps fund some projects
Especially,
around this house, but
especially nowadays.
well, and you think about, the cost of living now for somebody on a fixed income, it's very difficult. So there is a huge increase in seniors working, not always just for the fun of it, but sometimes for the absolute need.
The problem is, Gwen, and I came face to face with it because after Sears went bankrupt, I searched for a job. And I mean, I searched,
Yeah.
was able to find something that only gave me 4 or 5 hours a week, and it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But I went such roadblocks about ageism that
Yeah.
it's become for me something that I really am very vocal about. And you know
Yeah.
me, I'm
I know.
vocal.
Yes, absolutely. If there's a cause, you're behind it.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. You're absolutely right.
And it's out there.
Yeah.
If say what your age is, because there's an automatic prejudice that you're a little old lady, and that I mean, the whole thing is horrible. It's horrible. The seniors' prejudice that is out there.
Yeah,
We are
absolutely.
very capable, very, very capable.
And
And yet
oftentimes,
we are treated like children sometimes.
well, yes, dearie, I'm going to
I am
tell you.
not your hun or your love or anything
Yeah,
else.
sweetie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's another
Don't you,
good one.
or ma'am. I don't know why guys think they can just say, hi, ma'am. Can I help you, ma'am? I don't know, it makes me, but a lot of times senior women have an even harder go in their senior years because sometimes they haven't worked outside the home. So maybe they're not, all they're getting is old age pension, no Canada pension or whatever.
That's right.
And poverty in senior women is higher than senior men.
And they don't talk about it.
No, it's
They never
embarrassing, right?
talk about it.
Yes.
That because we were raised with what goes on behind closed doors stays behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Now they could be living off of cereal all week long, dry cereal, but they're not going to tell their kids, and they're not going to mention it to anybody else.
No, you're right.
It's all about pride.
Yep.
And
sure.
it's out there and people don't realize it.
Yeah, well, you're also involved with the the one
Keeping
with
seniors warm.
Absolutely, yeah. I wanted to say something about coats, but it's not.
And I'm also involved with the seniors advisory panel as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I attend that meeting once a month. Well, and and that's just an indication of the things that are going on in the background. Not everybody realizes, and not everybody understands the needs for seniors. We fundraise for different charities, and but there's so many people now that are having to access the food bank, and all, they haven't got a warm coat for the winter. So it's wonderful that you're still doing all that you do, Bev. I mean,
want to know something? I went into keeping seniors warm because my Yaya sister and I would be on the phone, but hardly ever have time together. So she says to me, she had gotten involved with this. she says to me, you got to come and volunteer and it'll give us some time together.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
Because
Right?
I was heading towards the hospice and
Yeah,
cancer
yeah,
volunteerism,
yeah,
and she was in her community. So I go for this Keeping Seniors Warm event. I'm going to be a volunteer. She said to me, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is have somebody with you that
yeah,
you are going to take to Giant Tiger and you are going to clothe them. That was it.
yeah.
Okay.
Famous last words, isn't it?
Famous last words. Here we go again. We're on the same train. So I go to this event, and
Yeah,
this event took place at the beginning of November. And we had a lunch at the Legion, and then hopped a bus, went to Giant Tiger, and then went back to the Legion for tea and dessert. It was to give them a social outing.
yeah,
Believe me, I got 10 times more than anybody ever got from it.
yeah.
And I said as I left that day, it was the start of my Christmas. And I still say it every year. It is one of the most gratifying
Yep.
things I've ever been involved in. But more than that, here we go right back to the learning again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I had no clue how many seniors are living in abject poverty. I
Yeah,
mean,
I know.
abject.
I know. It's it's becoming harder and harder. The cost of living, families are struggling. Seniors are definitely struggling with those. If they've got a only relying on CPP and old age, that's you can't live in the cost of an apartment now. It's typically around $2,000. Like it
It,
doesn't.
it's
It's just
that's why
becoming
we're
so
dealing with
difficult.
yeah, that's why we're dealing with so much homelessness.
It
You
is.
know,
It is.
it's just terrible. The
Yeah.
one thing that really got me was not leaving the house because you didn't have a winter coat. So
Yeah.
they would be putting on a sweatshirt and a hoodie and then
Yeah.
a windbreaker over
Yeah.
that. Um,
I know.
it was eye opening.
Yeah.
I was very naive about what was going on. Like I said, you get involved, boy, do you learn fast,
Yeah.
really fast. And it's become more and more important to me um, to work with seniors issues.
Yeah.
I've become very vocal, um,
Yep.
very adamant that change needs to take place. I've
Mhm.
also become very adamant um, with regards to our governments. Now, if if there is a bankruptcy in for a corporation,
Mhm.
did you know that the pensions are the last thing on the creditors list?
Which is horrible, and I I was shocked, and I think probably the Sears situation was an eye opener to me and to a lot of people, because you
Yeah,
think your pensions aren't lost.
you
You're
know what?
it's not
Um,
true.
and we had a locked pension only up until I think about 5, 6 years before they went bankrupt. Then they switched things around.
Mhm.
It was horrible. Money was taken out of the pension funds.
Yeah.
It was just terrible. And the federal government needs to fix the bankruptcy law, because if they fix the bankruptcy law, people will get their pensions,
Yeah.
the amounts that they're entitled to.
Yeah.
It's even employees leaving don't get their payouts that they
Yeah.
should be getting. And
No.
it's all because of the bankruptcy law. You cannot change senior pension systems until you start protecting those pensions in bankruptcy laws. We should be first on the line of
Absolutely.
creditors,
Yeah.
and everybody else comes after because we've given 20, 25 years to that organization who made profits and gave their profits, gave their boards bonuses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was an eye opener, this whole Sears situation, that you were not at the top of the creditor list with your pensions. And, there's an assumption that people, when they're in their retirement years, have this, life of comfort with a pension,
It's
with
not true
Canada
at all.
pension. And in fact, there's a huge proportion of, I'm thinking it's 20, I forget, I saw it somewhere, but it's almost like 20 some percent or higher, I think.
That's right.
That are in abject poverty. And so whenever, and so many companies now don't even offer a pension to their employees. So when you have worked for a company for all of those years, and you're kind of thinking about it in the back of your mind, when I retire, I'll have that little nest egg there, and it's wiped out in an instant. That's a pretty rude awakening. It's horrible.
Yeah, very, very definitely. It was a time of shock and disillusionment, and not just for me, for everybody. We were all great friends, all of us that worked at Sears. I mean, all of us were together for years. We've still continued the friendships. That's something that we take away with us. But the way the laws work, believe me, it's the employee that's at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be. To me, that employees should be number one, because they've either, maybe some of them have been contributing to that plan, whatever. It's you're living your career, you're going through a day to day, and you're thinking of that sort of little package at the end of it all, and then it's not there. And how do you all of a sudden, especially if you're in your 50s and 60s, and you were counting on that money, and then you have to think about going back to work just to be able to make ends meet. That's pretty awful. That's pretty devastating.
I think for me, what made it also rough was I was grieving my late husband. I mean, all of this landed within a year and a half. It started. That was when my job first became redundant, and I was only 6 months from retirement.
Wow.
And then, like, going back to Sears, and and then the bankruptcy, and you're still grieving, and you're still trying to hold it together. To be honest with you, I mean, I sit back now and look back at it. It was the organizations that I was involved in, the meetings, the events. Those are the things that kept my sanity. So believe me, if you're having a rough time, get involved somewhere, because it keeps your feet firmly planted on the ground. I promise you that it was because of volunteering and being involved in the hospice galas, all of that kind of thing. To be involved in that is what kept me sane.
Yeah, well, I've always said, when you help somebody else, it comes back to you. You get out of yourself. You now, they always say somebody's worse off than you. You know what I mean? Whatever it is.
Definitely.
You think you got a lot of trouble, and then you realize there's somebody who's going through much more, and it takes you out of yourself. And when you help somebody, you definitely get it back. And yeah. Oh, Bev, it's do you have any dollar amount that you've raised over the years? Do you know how many millions of dollars you raised?
You know what? Let's just say that it's bypassed the 800,000 mark, and I don't want to talk about no more.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing. And you are known throughout Sudbury for your contribution to so many different organizations. It's countless. I've written down some, but I know there's more because your touches in a lot of different places. And I've always admired you, Bev. And before I even really got to know you, I knew about you because your name kept coming up all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, who is this woman? And I sort of try to model myself, and to help where I can because of women like you. You've contributed so much to our community that people don't even realize. It's a well kept secret.
It is, you know what? Well, in June, I finish um, three-year tenures with the Northern Cancer Foundation on the board of directors. So I'll just put it out there right now. I'm looking for another board to go on, if you don't mind.
I'm sure there's somebody out there listening. Okay, yeah.
I got to keep my days busy here. What can I say?
Oh, you're an amazing woman, Deb, and you've gone through a lot. Just everything that happened with Sears, but your health and all of that, and you still got a smile on your face, and you're looking great. And I know, like I say, there's some rough days for sure, but I'm glad you decided to do this with me because I really wanted people just to see you and hear you and your wonderful personality, and you've done so much, like I say, in this community. I just wanted people to know Bev.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
Well, I want you to take care of yourself, and thank you again from me and Sudbury. We thank you.
Thank you for having me. Okay. Bye-bye now.
Take care.